Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is well today. Started at a slightly different time this week of 12:30, so it's nice to see some returning faces and some new ones as well. Thought we'd try a slightly different time, and numbers actually look quite good and are growing quite quickly from the waiting room. So we've got two great speakers today, Natalia, Avdeeva with how to win more customers using jobs to be done, and Daniele, Morisco with conflict resolution. So just a couple of, I guess, house rules. If we could keep all questions coming in through the chat privately to me, I will then ask them to our speakers at the end, because I'd just like to maintain the fluidity of the meetup and to ensure everyone can hear the question asked and the answer as well. Could I also just request that you all sort of keep yourself on mute as well, so our speakers have got a nice clear run at their presentations and talks. And yeah, we want, as I've said before, we want to keep these going. I think it's great for the community that that these are happening, and that we are able to provide a platform for people to speak. So I'm now going to hand you over to Natalia. She's the Chief Product Officer from Trusted House Sitters. And as I said, her talk is on how to win more customers using jobs to be done. So Natalia, over to you.
Thank you, Alex. Hi, everyone. Hope you had a wonderful long weekend. Great to see some familiar faces. And yeah, I know it's lunchtime, so bon appetit to those of you having their lunch, and don't mind me. Let me just share my screen. Can you see it?
Yep, that's working, all good.
Okay, all right, great. So I'll talk today about how to win more customers using jobs to be done. I hope it will be useful for you. I'm just trying to, okay. Sorry. To introduce myself a little bit, I'm Natalia Avdeeva. I've led product in companies large and small, as you can see here. Most lately, I've been the Chief Product Officer at Trusted House Sitters, which is the world's largest travel and pet sitting marketplace. And I'm also a mentor at Seed Camp, which is a seed fund and startup accelerator. Today I will talk about jobs to be done, and I know lots of you probably heard about jobs to be done, but for those who haven't, let me just quickly recap what it is. So jobs to be done theory was created by Clayton Christensen, who was the Harvard Business School professor. He passed away this year, unfortunately. And he also the author of several books, such as Innovator's Dilemma. So Clayton Christensen said that people don't just buy products. They buy products to get certain jobs done. And understanding what job they are hiring a product to do can help to open a world of innovation possibilities. To give you an example of how it can work, Clayton Christensen mentioned this case study in his article about jobs to be done. It's a case study about McDonald's, and they were looking to drive sales of milkshakes. They did everything they could. They studied their demographics in great detail. They interviewed people who were buying milkshakes to understand how to improve the product. But unfortunately, sales stayed flat. And at that point, McDonald's involved Clayton Christensen and his team, and they applied jobs to be done to this problem. And what they learned is that people who were buying milkshakes were often buying them early in the morning. So they were drivers driving to work, usually driving for a couple of hours. And milkshakes were helping them to stay engaged during their ride, not to get bored. So they were sipping those milkshakes. Usually milkshakes are quite thick, so they lasted for 30 minutes at least. And getting this insight, about who buys milkshakes and why they buy them, help to open up a variety of innovation opportunities. For example, McDonald's then made milkshakes even thicker so that they last longer, introduced new kinds of cups, and also introduced prepaid cards so that drivers don't have to queue and don't have anxiety to be late for work. And as a result, sales went sevenfold. Now that's a famous story about jobs to be done. And today I will be, talking about jobs to be done in the context of trusted house cities. And so the problems we were looking to solve, 3 problems. First of all, we were looking to refine our product positioning to win more customers. Secondly, we were looking to innovate on product, get ideas there. And thirdly, I was looking to make the team more customer-centric. To give you more context about trusted house cities, because I will be talking about it in more detail. Trusted house cities is a 2-sided marketplace. On one side, there are pet and house owners, and on the other side, there are pet sitters. And the easiest way to explain is that we are like Airbnb, but instead of paying money to stay at somebody's place, you take care of their house or pets. And we have something like 80,000 paying subscribers on the platform and have presence in more than 150 countries. The way it works is that owners, house and pet owners, post listings like this, some beautiful villas with swimming pools and cute pets. And then sitters apply for those seats. And the interesting thing that both owners and sitters only pay a subscription fee of £89 per year in the UK. And after that, it's all based on trust. Yeah, so that's how it works. And by the way, if you need a referral code, let me know, because I'm always looking to win more customers. Sorry, the slides. Okay. Now I will talk a little bit about the type of interview that we ran. So we ran jobs to be done, switch interviews. Clayton Christensen, when he introduced the theory of jobs to be done, he only talked about it generally. So he didn't introduce any framework on how to actually run interviews. And then practitioners of his theory, his method, they came up with various types of jobs to be done interviews. And today I will be talking about switch interviews. Switch interviews are meant to help us understand the customer story that made them switch to the product. And they're different from all other types of interviews in that way that you won't be asking your customers anything about their usage of your products and how to improve it. Instead, you will focus on the journey that led them from the first thoughts about the need to hire a product like yours to the actual purchase of the product. So it's very acquisition focused. So I will try to run you through the whole process, how to run jobs to be done interviews. And we use it at Trusted House Sitters. Just to want to mention that our team is quite small, 5 people, product managers and product designers. We don't have a dedicated researcher, so we did it all ourselves. There are 5 steps of the process. So I'm just trying to flip through the slides and it's not always happening. Right, yeah. The first step is to invite customers. For this type of interview, you invite customers who transacted less than 30 days ago. Basically, you want people to remember details. You want it to be fresh in their memory. And the way we do it, we send emails to customers. We outline the purpose of the interview, why we want to invite them. Then we offer them some kind of a reward. Usually it's a $30 Amazon voucher, £30 in the UK, for 30 minutes of their time via video call. And finally, we give them access to our calendars so that they could book a time themselves. We use Calendly to reduce our admin work. The next step is to define the goal of your interview and come up with questions. The tool we used here is called timeline. So it's a timeline essentially from the first thought when your customers understood they have a certain need to the moment of purchasing. And interestingly, that you run these interviews starting on the moment of purchase, not from the first thought. This is because people usually remember the moment of purchase the best. The questions we asked here, I'm trying to flip to the next thing, but it's not happening. Okay, it happened. So you ask people, when did they buy the product? Where were they? What time of day was it? Was anyone else with them? So you're trying to really get them into the mode of remembering. And this is important. Also, it's important because our memory works through associations. For example, if I ask you, what did you wear yesterday? You might not remember. But if I ask you, what was the weather like? It's likely you will remember what you wore. So ask for all these kind of details. And then after you talked about purchasing, go straight to the first thought about the needs. And again, you ask questions about details. When did they realize they needed a sitter? Where were they? Were they with someone? What were they doing when this happened? And then you go to the next stage, which is active looking, and ask them whether they considered other options and how was their experience with other solutions. And finally, you go to the stage of deciding whether to purchase the product. And you will ask questions such as, did you ask anyone else what they thought about your purchase? What was the conversation like? Did you have any anxieties? The point here is that often people rewrite their memory about what happened in the past. And if they started using your product and if their experience is, let's say, positive, it will tint their memories about the past. So what you want here is to get them to quote their friends or family. Ask them, what did your husband say? Ask them, what did you think the experience will be like prior to buying? Try to get them to relive that moment. I hope it makes sense. And going to the next slide. You invite people for an interview, either to your office, pre-coronavirus, or do it online. Involve relevant colleagues to run and observe these interviews. In our team, every product designer and every product manager ran these interviews. We also invited other people. We invited our CEO to participate, which is great. During the interview, take notes or record videos. An important step from the very beginning is to establish a good rapport with the interviewees. Ask them about their day, ask them about their travel habits in our case, about their relationship with pets. And during the interview, ask open-ended questions. Questions that start with why, who, when, what. Don't ask closed questions like, did you do that or this? Use the tool called 5 Whys. Constantly repeatedly asking why to get to the bottom of the problem and understand the root cause. Don't ask leading and hypothetical questions. Don't ask questions that start with would. Would you buy our product if it were more expensive? Ask for details and ask for stories. They really help you to come up with new innovative solutions. And observe emotions, observe body language, observe gestures. That's a few tips on the interview process. And finally, once you ran something like 5 to 10 interviews, 5 is minimum for this method, 10 is good. In our case, we ran interviews both on owner and sitter side. You will need to run a workshop to process all findings and find common themes, prioritize them, and define jobs to be done. So I'll talk you through how to do this. The tool that you will use for the workshop is the same timeline from first thought to the moment of purchase, and also the tool called 4 forces. There are 2 positive forces that help you to convert customers and 2 negative forces that prevent them from converting. So positive forces are push of the situation, which is what in their situation forces them to try something new. Then pull of the solution, it's something in your product that is attractive to them. And then inertia is their desire to keep status quo, not change anything. And anxiety, their concerns about the product. And eventually you want these 2 positive forces to outweigh negative forces for customers to convert. So you run the workshop, go through all notes that you've got, put post-it notes in each of those categories, and then you find common themes and prioritize them. So I'll show you how it looked in our case. This is an outcome of the owner jobs to be done workshop. You see here the positive forces that help us to convert customers are affordable price, insurance, reviews, verification, community of pet lovers, and recommendations by friends. And main anxieties are whether they will get any applications, and stranger in the home, inviting somebody they don't know. So you run this process and then you articulate what is the job your customers are trying to hire your product for. In our case, we said that when I'm away from home, I want my pet to be taken care of well so that I can have peace of mind knowing that it's in good hands. So essentially for us, peace of mind is the job our owners hire our products to do. We did the same for sitters, and on the sitter side, it's slightly more complex because our sitters hire us for various jobs. We've got digital nomads who use our platform as a way to stay there somewhere because they just don't have a permanent place to stay. Then we have people who look for pet companionship and people who look for cheap travel. This makes it slightly more complex, but very useful to outline all these jobs. So what's next? Next, you use these findings to refine your user personas, to improve your value proposition, think of product improvements you can make, and introduce new products and services. In our case, what we did is that we were able to refine our user personas. Here you see an example of an owner persona, and we call them after dog breeds in a very cute way. The golden retrievers is this persona called. And you can see that we were able to articulate their motivations and concerns much better after jobs to be done. So here for this type of persona, they're very focused on trust and safety. So everything that helps to build trust is very important. Insurance, reviews, verifications, and their concerns are strangers in the house, credibility of sitters, and things like that. Then we have a secondary persona. We call them the Jack Russells. And they tend to be slightly younger and they understand the sharing economy thing very well. So they are somewhat less concerned about trust and safety, but it's important for them to have like-minded sitters and they hate kernels. They want their pets to stay at home. And finally, what we did, we came up with lots of ideas how we can refine our value proposition. And our experimentation team ran a number of experiments to improve sign-up rates, and we're very successful with it. So here you can see we structured the value prop around peace of mind, pet sitters offering peace of mind. We surfaced references and reviews, insurance back guarantee, verified pet sitters, and we surfaced community, much better quotes from our members who love this service. And we also came up with lots of other ideas, for example, money back guarantee that would help to persuade pet owners who are concerned that they will not get any applications. So to summarize, use jobs to be done switch interviews to understand why people to choose your product and to win more customers. Interview 5 to 10 people who recently purchased the product. Start with the switch event, the moment of purchase, and go back in time to understand the emotions and considerations, the internal battle they lived through deciding whether to buy your product or not. Make it a team activity. It's very fun, involve everyone, and use your findings to inform your roadmap. I hope this was useful, and I wish you luck with applying jobs to be done in your companies. And let me know if you have any questions. Here is my email. Thank you.
Natalia, thank you very much. Really enjoyed that one. Thank you. I'll drop you a message so you can, as requested previously. So I'm now going to introduce Daniele Morisco. He is a product lead at Whitbread. And his talk is on conflict resolution. We did get some questions come in from Natalia. Thank you for those. I'll be asking those at the end. So same again, should you have questions for Daniele, please privately message them to me in the chat and I will ask them to him at the end. So without further ado, over to you, Daniele.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Let me share presentation quickly. Can you all see the screen? Yeah, cool, thank you. All right, so the reason I wanted to share some of my learning about conflict resolution, and I think as product people, it's a very valuable technique, quality to have. And so what I'm going to try to do is to share some of my understanding on why this is important, and as well as trying to look at how to approach it, and a few tips and tools to be using when replying to emails, as well as when you're having face-to-face conversations, so that probably you can take this up with you. So the first thing I wanted to discuss is that there is, when discussing with people, you generate ideas, you come up with solutions and come up with something that works for your product. However, sometimes when we are in a conflict, this cannot happen, because although there is something in between the conversation, we tend to stick on our own ideas because we feel defenses, and we're not able to listen to what everyone else has to say. This is also true for the other side, of course. So being able to resolve and solve a problem or a conflict will help also to the company to generate new ideas and new approaches to what we want to do. So how can we approach with the right state of mind, the conversation? And this is not just when there is conflict, but also when we're having meetings with our teams, and we want to try to achieve something with our meetings and so on. First thing to do is to be detached from our contributions. So when the reason I'm saying that is that we want to make sure that we listen to other people. So to do that, one thing that we could try to do is that once the idea is shared, we don't feel that is ours anymore. We actually, is the team who owns it. That only not allows us to be more objective, help us to, as I mentioned, to listen to what people are trying to say and trying to listen attentively to understand why they're saying so. And also why you're not be attached if they're starting, sorry, I don't know why you went there. We are not attached to what people are, so if your idea is criticized, you're not taking it offensively. You're there objectively to listen why they want to try to evolve your idea or criticize it or move forward to the next point or change completely what the idea might be. The other thing is when going, so especially if you're joining to trying to sort some other people's problems, we need to see ourselves not as the problem or the solution. We actually someone that help the team move forward, and we are there to steer the conversations and guide them so that we all go through also our input, of course, to the right place. So the next thing that I would like to analyze is a bit how to, for example, respond to emails or treat emails and face-to-face conversations. So let's say it's late in the day, we had worked a lot, and suddenly arrives an email that isn't too kind on our side, and of course, because we're tired, the first thing to do is we react and we basically get really upset with what's going on. So what we should try to do is, first of all, avoid instant replying. Do not reply right away. There's no, unless it's something really urgent, there's no really a need to reply to an email the second it arrives. Make sure you read it again and again, sorry. Because of course, also one problem with emails is sometimes it's difficult to convey our feelings, it's difficult to convey our ideas, they might be misinterpreted. So it's our job to make sure that we understand it exactly the way we want to understand it. And that we don't misinterpret anything. So if you need to write it down, because of course some of us really want to write it down, do so, write it down, but keep it as a draft, keep it safe, do not send it and sleep on it. Wait for the next day to arrive and then read it again next morning, because that will, you will approach it in a more cooled way, and you won't have the instinct that you had the day before to reply on that email. You'll be more objective into it. And of course, as a safe, if you need it, copy also your managers in case there are some escalation that need to be done, but this is more on depending on situation by situation. A year ago, I had we were working on an example feature of for our website that we would help our sales to generate more leads in customers. Basically, we estimated how long it would have taken. We were basically working on that feature. Unfortunately, one sprint later, because there are some trending issues the whole month, we come up with another solution that we knew would brought us a lot more value for the company. It would help us with the trading. So I had to write down to this stakeholder saying, I'm really sorry, but we deprioritized your work. I know you were waiting for it, and we wanted to make sure that you're aware that this is happening. The reply I had was quite salty, to say the least. And the guys would basically say, oh, I lost any faith in you and your team. My team doesn't believe in you anymore. You're not professional. All these kind of things that we're saying. That really put me down on that day. So I decided to wait the day after, and I wrote my response saying, look, I understand this, you want to have things the way when we're promised. I understand the frustration, and I wish I could say yes to everyone, but the resources are what they are. We need to work on priorities. This is my job. I can't say yes to everything and to anyone, and unfortunately these things happen. And I copied my manager in, which I later on came to know that he talked also to their manager and the manager to this guy. But because I mentioned, let's keep conversations open, let's not move there, and then let's not, arrive to this conflict and try to be patient. What happened later on is that I didn't get a response on the email, the first email. What happened was that a few weeks later, again, unfortunately, something came up. Again, the trending on our website were not doing well. We needed to work something that would improve our trading. And we needed to basically deprioritize this item again. And I really didn't want to write to this guy again, because I didn't want to receive another email of like that one. But I did, because this was my job. And I say, like, I'm sorry, I know, but we had this request, and unfortunately we have to go through with it, and we need to make sure this is happening. And unfortunately, your feature is again suffering from it. And the email I received was actually very professional from his side, saying, don't worry, I understand. You have to do what you have to do. Please let me know when it's happened. Since that, our conversation were a lot more smoother. It was somewhere on our side. We were working together, and at the end, we managed to later on deliver what they needed, and we were all happy. So now I want to talk more about how to deal with some difficult conversations. Product people, or at least most of us, don't tend to have a lot of inline reports to themselves. So we need to develop skills that allows us to get buy-in from the team, from the stakeholders, and we need to basically try to move things forward. A couple of things that we need to develop a lot is listen and being able to coach. But active listening, trying to be really understanding of what the other people are trying to say, and coaching is like, again, driving the conversation so that we get to the point that we want to do. So understanding why do we want to get there, how do we want to get there, and when, and all that, those questions that help us understand the problem. So we shouldn't force our solution or action unless urgent, unless it's a matter of urgency. However, the best thing is to have the team work together with you and help them steer to the solution and so on. If you need to say no to some people, one thing that I found sometimes useful is to bring up the vision of the product or the feature. So how does this fit in basically what we're trying to do? How does it fit with the business strategy? How do we help? I mean, we want to help these people to achieve their own maybe team's goals, but how do they fit with a bigger picture? Have them to respond to this question and see how they fit, and maybe they can revise what they're asking in a way that helps us, both teams, to work it out. And in an eventuality that doesn't work, because sometimes, especially if you're working in big companies, you might have to deal with some senior stakeholders that after a few no's, they probably will go over your head and go to your manager and saying, oh, he's not collaborating with you. We need this feature, otherwise we won't meet our goals. So how do we try to help sorting this solution out? So one thing that I found working is, again, through listening and coaching, like working with the stakeholders, working with the team to redefine and agree on the definition of success of what they want to try to get to. How does that work? How does that help? And maybe you can come up with something that, is even better than what they were initially looking at. And then you might find a solution, maybe with the job to be done, Natalia described earlier, and how to help them get the best results without affecting your team too much in terms of what we want to deliver. A few years ago, while I was still at Yahoo, there was a team. We were working on a tool that would be used internally to help achieve some of our goals on our advertising products. What we had in our team was kind of clear. We wanted to achieve something, but when we started approaching the sales engineer team, or the team that basically was working with the sales team, we realized that they had a completely different understanding of what this tool would do. And what happened was that we had one of the developers that was connecting with this team and the member of the team clashing a lot, to the point that the project was not moving forward anymore and was standstill. And I was asked, at the time I was acting as a Scrum Master, as well as a developer. I was asked to jump in and see if there was anything I could do to move things forward. And what I did was that by listening to both of them at the same time, I understand there was a disconnect on what they wanted to achieve and what our team was trying to achieve with this tool. And what we've done was that we wrote down again all the definition of success. How do we measure it, and we start picking the one we both agree that will work. We all agree that will work, and then put them on paper and says, okay, this is the definition, this is the of success, this is the definition of our KPIs, this is what we want to measure. Since we move into that, and it was a sort of a contractual agreement, we move forward, the projects start working again, and we managed to deliver with some delays, but we got there at the end. The last sets of tips is how to approach when getting into a meeting with someone. How do we set, for example, our meeting to when we want to have a difficult conversation? First of all, we need to find a neutral area, whether it's a coffee or meeting room, coffee place or meeting room. We need to find someone that is not anyone's desk. The reason for that is if you're trying to have a difficult conversation with someone at their desk, they might feel threatened. We don't know how they might respond, and they might feel threatened because you're going into their territory in a way. But the same thing happens if you invite them over. Try to, if they come to you, they might not feel confident enough, they might not like it. So best always to find a neutral area, meeting room, or a coffee place, or whatever that you want to talk, that you're not going to have problem with. The next tip is instead of sitting one in front of the other, try to sit side by side or no more than 90 degrees. The reason being is that if you're sitting opposite, there is a sort of a work in our site that it makes the person in front of us the objectification of the problem. So if you imagine a straight line coming in front of you, that person that is in front of you is the source of the problem that you're trying to solve, and you basically want to act against that. Instead, if you're starting to sit side by side or 90 degrees, if you have those two lines, that two lines merge to an undefined point, to be your computer, your notepad, or anything, but you're working together to actually solve that problem that is in front of you, and you have the same vision, you have the same point of view, and helps in resolution. And last tip, and then I'm done, is if you can avoid empty stomachs. Yeah, I try this sometimes. You might be grumpier if your stomach is empty. Try to avoid that. And that's it for me. And if you have any question, I'll be happy to hear them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniele. Thank you for that. So some questions have come in. So first one to Natalia.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
That slide on the jobs to be done interview, does that translate into a user story? It is written very well and looks like a user story.
Yes, it's actually called a job story. It's similar to a user story, but the difference is that you don't focus on users, you focus on situations and jobs. So it says, when I'm away from home as an owner, I want my pet to be taken care of well so that I have peace of mind, right? So it's around situation and around the job.
Okay, thank you very much. Again to you, Natalia, what are the main challenges you have faced at Trusted House Sitters?
Oh, good question. Quite a few. When I just joined, we had a data team and data was not democratized enough. So products and designers and engineers, they didn't have a habit of looking at data, or they needed the data team to give them data. So making the team data-driven, giving them tools, was one of the challenges that I had to solve. Another one is to making the team more customer-centric, and running jobs to be done really helped with that. Getting product managers and designers speak firsthand with customers really helped. Another challenge that is not solved yet is to be able to measure our liquidity better. So as a marketplace, we have always this disbalance of supply and demand, and being able to understand better in which markets it's more balanced, in which it is not, and where we need to focus more on acquisition, should really help us to drive growth. And this is one of my priorities.
Thank you. Question for you, Daniele. Does the organisation have a need of a Scrum Master or Agile coach to serve as mediator, facilitator, impediment remover and problem solver, etc.?
Well, it depends how probably big is the company. I think the Scrum Master job is definitely the one that tried to remove the issues that the team is having. However, like someone like a product manager is more about interfacing the development team and the stakeholders in different times to come up with the strategy and the roadmap for the features they need to develop. I personally think that there shouldn't be a person that is the problem solver for everything. I think it's something that each one of us has to develop to further. A coach probably can help at the beginning to set things up, but then you can't. You need to develop these skills to move the company forward, and not just the company. I mean, like the team forward, or you always be dependent on someone. You might not have it on your next job, this person. I think there are valuable skills for each one of us to develop in different ways.
Thank you. So this question is coming to you both. So having been there over a year now to Natalia and over 3 years to Daniele, is there anything different you both would have done with the benefit of hindsight? So I'll go to you first, Natalia, because Daniele, you've just answered the question. And then you can jump straight in after Natalia's finished, Daniele. Do you want me to read the question again, or are we okay?
Yes, please, yeah.
Okay, so having been there a year now, so that references you, Natalia, and over 3 years for yourself, Daniele, is there anything differently you would have done with the benefit of hindsight?
Yes, there's something around the importance of member success for us that I wish I started thinking much earlier. You see, in our organization, we're a subscription business, so we sell subscriptions, and then it's up to owners and sitters to agree on a seat. And so member success, the ability to secure a seat, is far away from revenue. And as a result, there has been always a bias to focus more on the acquisition side of things. And but then you understand that member success drives retention, it drives virality. And one thing that we launched a few months ago that helped to change the narrative around member success was post-checkout survey, when we started asking our new members, how did they first hear about Trusted House Sitters? And it turned out that 60% of new members heard about us through a recommendation from family or friends. So that was very insightful.
And for me, what I would have done differently. So, I mean, these skills is something that I acquired with time and by trying something out here and there every now and then. I think the latest one I developed a bit further because I didn't have it before. I didn't know much about it before I was coaching. I think I found great value in that skills, especially now that I had some of our team reporting to me and how to help them develop and reach solution, and having also them to having your team also to make some mistakes without having to jump in. This is something that I've done more recently, and I wish I knew a bit more before, and I probably would have applied that in the past. One thing actually I started looking into now is a book about, it's called Never Split the Difference, about how to negotiate. So I'm trying to learn a bit about more on that. And another book that I really appreciated to help me understand the value of contribution from everyone is called Multipliers. I think it was from Wiseman. It's basically looking at how companies are succeeding by using the intelligence of all the people that are in the company, and how the solutions that are coming with these methods are actually tenfold more powerful than the sum of the individual ones. So I hope I answer that. But I think learning and improving is something that is constant, and approaching the same solution with the same insight that you had 12 years ago, that probably means that there's some, we didn't grow somewhere. So I hope I matured enough on that side.
Thank you for your answers. Another one to you both. What advice would you give to somebody just starting out in product? Natalia, do you want to go first?
Yes. I will suggest to follow your passion, things that you like. That it really helped me now that I work on a product that is about travel and pets. These are two of my passions. I love my job. Try to get a job either in an early stage startup or in a scale up. You will learn a lot. I think it's great to be in product in a high growth environment, just because the amount of learning you get.
So yeah, the way I've done it, I approach myself. So I used to be a developer, and then I did the switch. And what basically drove me there was the whole agile methodology. So I think each one of us, of course, has a different path on how to become a product person. So my strengths, of course, are on the technical side. You know, if you have that Venn diagram where you have the business and the user experience and the technical experience, I'm probably closer on the technical side, and I'm trying to move forward in the middle. So see what your strengths are. So you probably are more on the business side, and probably more on the UX side. Try to learn more about the other two realities, and see how you can become a better product that sits in the middle and is not biased on the other two. So for example, one thing I've done since I joined Whitbread, for example, I started doing some courses on UX, because at Yahoo I was mainly doing advertising products, and I and I didn't have much of that user experience background to help me understand more. So I've done a bit of courses in there. I'm trying to understand a bit about business, and so see where you're coming from. Try to see where you want to get to, how you want to approach it. Why would you think is a good solution to get there, and then try to apply it.
Thank you. And final question. I am a project manager and looking to switch to become a product manager. Could you give me any advice on that switch?
Good question. I think try to join again a startup that would use your project management skills. Startups are messy, and that would give you this opportunity to try and learn on the job. Read, follow blogs of people who write about product. If you'd like, contact me, I'll give you some recommendations. Attend events like this to learn what product management is about. Then there are courses like General Assembly, where you can take a short-term course and learn the basics of product management. I think it would give you credibility as well to get started.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that than that, but probably the only thing I'd say is that the project manager tend to look at a set timeline of a project and then move into something that might be completely different. A product person is more onto looking into how the product evolves and grows across the time. The timeline is constantly evolving, and you never really abandon that product. You might remove features, you might add new features, but the product is there. It's something that you constantly work on it. So trying to understand the problems that you are facing, why is the product there, and how this product fits into a market, and then also definitely followed Natalia's recommendations.
Thank you very much. That's it for this week, guys. Natalia and Daniele, thank you very much for your great talks, really insightful and very, very engaging. You pulled a lot of great questions from our listeners as well, so really two engaging talks. Thank you to everyone for joining us as well. I don't know if it's just me, but started to slowly feel like things could be picking up, and we might be seeing a bit of light at the end of the tunnel now. Here at Oliver Bernard, as I say, we're continuing to run these meetups, and we want to do our very best to continue to help everyone we can in finding your next career move. Not saying we've got job opportunities coming out of our ears at the moment, but we will certainly do our very best to help you. And if we do have something for you, it would be great for you to be on our database and within our network and on our radar, so we reach out to you as and when something really suitable comes. We've got Agile London tomorrow night. Jeff Watts is speaking, so that will be one not to be missed. And next week, we've got 2 more speakers on Tuesday at 6 p.m. for another Product London. So once again, Natalia, Daniele, thank you very much for your talks this week, and thank you to everyone for joining. And I hope to see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.